One of the biggest complaints I hear about Evernote has very little to do with Evernote itself. I've heard people say, maybe you have too, I just put a lot of articles and things I want to read into Evernote and I never see them again. Well, today, how to avoid the dumping ground phenomena and make Evernote more valuable to you. Hi, I'm Dave Edwards, and this is another in my series of Evernote tips and tricks. I also want to address a question I received from a viewer who wrote, "Thank you so much for providing the information about Evernote. I'm quite new to Evernote. I do a lot of research on stocks. I do need to save all that research for individual stocks for future reference. I do want to save articles, links, Excel, and Word files. Any suggestions will be highly appreciated. Thanks." That's from a viewer, and we'll get to that question in just a bit because we're really going to go from one extreme to another. Let's start by thinking about old-fashioned file cabinets. You'd never think about just taking random documents and jamming them into a file drawer. At least I hope you wouldn't. You'd probably use file folders. You'll label them and you file them alphabetically. And yet, I've heard of people who treat Evernote the way I described, just jamming things into Evernote into a single notebook. No wonder they view it as a dumping ground. It's so easy to file things without a system. It would be just like dumping things into a file cabinet. So here's what I suggest. I have a notebook that I called Reading File. I email any article I want to read later using my special Evernote email address to send them directly into Evernote. If you have a paid Evernote plan, go to settings and find that address. Use it to input anything you want to read. Now resist the temptation to share that address for newsletter subscriptions. You might actually think, well, if I want to subscribe to this newsletter, I'll just give them my Evernote address and then it will go directly into that. See, the problem if you do that is you subscribe to a newsletter and before you know it, they're sending you other things. That will also go into your reading file. You need to kind of filter that out. What do I really need to read? Maybe the best solution is to stop subscribing to newsletters and emails that you don't regularly read. See, the key is you want to control what actually goes into that folder. And one more trick. When you forward an article or a file, change the subject line. You could direct it so that file, that email, goes directly into your reading file without first going into your default inbox notebook. Here's how you do that. Use the @ symbol and the notebook name. In this case, reading or whatever you've named the notebook. That means when you send that email to your Evernote address, it will go directly into your reading folder. And as I said, skipping a step of having to go into inbox. That's another big time-saving tip. But remember, no matter which method you try, you've got to go through that reading folder or it will become your dumping ground. Now back to the question raised by my viewer who wanted a place to store his research on individual stocks, whether they be emails or Excel or Word files. Well, in his case, I would suggest sending the new files into the read mailbox. And once you've read them, I suggest you create a single notebook called Stocks. Put all the information you want to keep into that notebook. Now that sounds like it could be a mess, right? Everything related to stocks into that one notebook. It could be a dumping ground. However, here's the trick. If you title that email with the stock symbol and add the date, they should appear alphabetically with the most recent article on top. You will be automatically pushing that email into your stock folder. Now, if you take the symbol that is commonly used for publicly traded stock like AAPL for Apple, followed by a date formatted like this, AAPL 2022-0107, that would be information on Apple stock that was created on January 7th, 2022. See what I mean? You've already created a filing system. You take that additional step and then add the identifier for the article. So now you could also have AAPL 2022-0107 new product announcement. That would mean that the file contains information on Apple stock that was created on January 7th, 2022, having to do with new products. Once you have everything filed that way, you can then open your notebook and scroll to the stock you want to review using the search tool. If you use the symbol AAPL, the search will show you everything you've collected on Apple stock. Now, if you search for AAPL and product, your search becomes limited and you will only see the emails that have to do with Apple stock and products or new products or particular, Monterey or whatever Apple is calling a software update these days. I hope that helps my viewer and you too. Email your questions to me at daveedwards@outlook.com or mention them in the comments below. I'm Dave Edwards. Thanks for joining me.